Since in one of my bathtub chats, I talked about All in the Family, mostly about Rob Reiner's character, Mike Stivic, and to some extent also about Archie Bunker. I thought I should give equal time to the two female characters. Okay, Gloria Stivic had some conflict with Mike because she was kind of discovering feminism. And she was, in that era, a lot of women were discovering the fact that there was discrimination against women. And they were kind of, fed up with having, a narrowing of their options, of their roles, and a lack of appreciation for their roles. Now, as far as Jean Stapleton's Edith Bunker, Dingbat, as she was called by Archie Bunker. Now, she was mentioned by Helen Andelin, who preached traditional sex roles, as an example of a female character who knew how to handle a difficult man according to traditional principles. And I think maybe Helen Andelin was onto something. Because in that show, Dingbat, she was called Dingbat. She was often told to stifle. But at the same time, she never really lost Archie Bunker's affection. And in an ultimate sense, she never really lost his respect. By acting submissively to him, she kind of was able to handle him, to get him to kind of calm down when he would go into a tirade. She kind of prevented him from overdoing it. She was an example of that. It was, of course, a fictional show. But the way she acted shows how that can, in fact, work sometimes. Being submissive, letting the man get his way, letting him have his say, letting him get his steam out, can work in the sense that it can, prevent him from, from going wacko. Also, Edith Bunker always seemed to have a certain sympathy for the other characters, for all three other characters. She was called Dingbat by Archie, and she even seemed to be dealt with as kind of silly by Mike and Gloria. But there was a sense in which she had a kind of wisdom about her, in that there just seemed to be an understanding in her. There seemed to be a kind of sympathy. She knew that Archie Bunker, his job was not inspiring. He went to a job that was demanding, not creative, and didn't really pay that well. And kind of exhausting. And she had sympathy for him. And she let that sympathy show. She also knew that sometimes the fights between Gloria and Mike between Mike and Archie weren't really worth it. The problems of America weren't going to be solved at the bunker kitchen table. And, whatever Mike and Gloria were fighting about, was it really worth it to get bitter about it? She sometimes made that point, showed her wisdom, showed she was a lot more than a dingbat. Sometimes she was the smartest person there. Not the best educated. Maybe not the best on an IQ test. But the wisest on a certain level.